One of the best things about Young Chautauqua that I didn't know was going to happen is that we charge these youngsters with going out and finding a character to portray. We don't tell them who to pick. We give them a theme, and we say, fine, go out and find a Civil War person and portray that person. And these kids come up with the darndest characters that were important historically, but they're kind of obscure, and I didn't know who they were. And these kids come up and they teach me history every year. And you're going to meet one of them right now. This is a person I had no idea who it was, but there was a young lady who was the very first female to ever get a commission by Congress to do a piece of art. They commissioned her to do a sculpture of Abraham Lincoln. And that's great because first lady to ever do it. Now let me tell you the best part about it. They gave her that commission when she was 17 years old. And she's here with us tonight. And her name is Vinnie Ream, and I would like you to meet her right now.
Did you hear? Did you hear? Did you hear the good news? I was the first woman and youngest artist to be commissioned by Congress to create a life-size statue of the late President Lincoln. Almost every famous sculptor in America, including my teacher Clark Mills, competed for this award. They did not think I was going to receive the award because I was a young girl with no formal art training. But my bust of Lincoln showed the kind and gentle man I knew, while others portrayed him as a warrior, king, or saint. Let me tell you how it all began. I grew up in Wisconsin, where most of my friends were the Winnebago Indians. They would tell me to make birds, wolves, and sometimes their faces. I would scoop up the riverbank clay and mold the figures. When I was 14, my family and I moved to Washington, D.C. during the first year of the Civil War. My family was poor, but we struggled to make ends meet. I was one of the first women hired at the post office because so many men had gone off to fight in the Civil War. But my dream was to sculpt. So one day after work, I visited Clark Mills, the most famous sculptor in Washington, D.C. I knocked on his door. He answered the knock himself. He thought I was there for a modeling job, but I said no. I want to make art. He tossed me a lump of clay to see if I could catch it. I missed, but I would not miss the opportunity to sculpt. I was 2 hours later, he inspected my work. I made the face of an Indian chief I once knew. He offered me a job as an apprentice immediately because he was so impressed with my work. I was so happy, I danced all the way home. But, however, sadly, my parents were not happy. They reminded me that the post office paid more. So, I convinced the post office to let me leave work early, only after I sorted 200 letters. I worked hard. My word of talent spread. Congressmen started coming to have their bust made. But my dream was to sculpt President Lincoln. I told the congressmen. They laughed. "What big dreams you have, Miss Ream," they said. "President Lincoln is busy fighting a war," they told me. Day after day, I pleaded with them. Finally, several congressmen agreed to talk to the president on my behalf. However, it was not an easy task. Finally, they tried one last time. She is poor, self-taught, raised log cabin out west. President Lincoln said, "Poor, self-taught, raised log cabin out west? Such a person not unfamiliar to me," he said. He finally agreed to sit for me. I was overjoyed. It was the year of 1864, and I was almost 17. President Lincoln granted me a sitting 5 days a week, half an hour a day. Let me tell you what it was like to spend time with President Lincoln. I sat in my corner and begged Mr. Lincoln not to allow me to disturb him. He seemed to find a sort of companionship in being with me, although we talked but little. I made him think of Willie, as often said so, as often wept. Willie was Abraham Lincoln's son, who had died of typhoid fever in the year of 1862. I remember President Lincoln especially in two attitudes. The first was with his great form slouched in a chair, his head deeply bowed. I think at this time he was with generals on the battlefields. The second was with him looking out the window as if he were watching Willie, for he had always watched the boy play every afternoon. Sometimes great tears rolled down his cheeks. It was April 14th, 1865, when I was almost done. I showed President Lincoln the bust I had made of him. He said, "I like it," but, however, sadly, it was the last time I would see him, for that night, watching a play at Ford's Theater, John Wilkes Booth shot President Lincoln. He died the next morning. Although I'm honored to have the opportunity to sculpt a full-size statue of the late President Lincoln, many critics do not think I will succeed. I must prove them wrong. I must get back to work now. Though you're all welcome to stay and watch me work, I've decided to open up my studio to the public. Thank you.
I have a question. Miss Ream, why did you want to sculpt the president?
Well, there are two reasons. The first was one day I saw him walking in the streets. You see, I always carried a sketchbook in my pocket. When I saw his expression on his face, his sad expression, I just wished I was back in Wisconsin, scooping up the riverbank clay and molding his face. I was so tempted to just scoop up the mud in the street and mold him right there. But I was late for my job at the post office, so I just sighed and went to work. The second is I admired what he was doing for the Civil War.
Thank you, Miss Ream. Ladies and gentlemen, the young scholar behind Vinnie Ream, I would like you to meet Jasmine Brazelton. Jasmine, how old are you?
I'm 7.
Okay. So what grade are you in? First grade, second grade, what?
Well, I'm going into second grade.
Second grade, and what school?
Colin Ranch Elementary School.
Terrific. Boy, I bet there's going to be some happy teachers out there. This is your first year in Young Chautauqua?
Yes.
Okay, what did you like best about your first year in Young Chautauqua?
Well, I'd say the research, because I'm actually a really big reading fan.
Cool. Okay, one final question, and then we'll let you go. Supposing there's another 7-year-old out here in the audience that would like to read about Vinnie Ream, can you recommend a book?
Well, my favorite book researching her was Vinnie and Abraham by Don Fitzgerald.
Thank you very much. Jasmine Brazelton.
Thank you.